somebody who was in L.A., but not with the Lakers, Paul George, he spoke on his Podcast P. No relation to Playoff P. By the way, every time he struggled, people were calling him Pandemic P.
Pandemic P.
It's so insulting, man.
His game was sick.
But he spoke about why things went the way they went with the Clippers and why he is now a member of the Philadelphia 76ers.
The first initial deal was, I thought, kind of disrespectful, right? 2 years, 60. So I'm like, wow, no. Then I hear wind of like, what they're going to give Kawhi. So I'm like, just give me what Kawhi got. Like,
right.
Y'all view us the same. Like, we came here together. We want to finish this together. I'll take what Kawhi got. They didn't want to do that. So this was before the All-Star break. So I'm like, you know what? I don't want, let's not even have no more conversations. Like, let's just play this year out. Cause it was starting to get into like my mood. Now I'm, you know what I mean? Like I didn't want to have that energy carry over into the team. Season in, I finished healthy, 74 games played and had one of my most efficient seasons. So now we go into negotiations. Now they bring it to 3 years, 150. All right, we're in the ballpark. You know what I mean? Now we can have conversation here. I presented the 150, no trade. Because in the meeting, they're like, we want you here long term. We want to, when you're retired, we want you to be a Clippers for a lifetime, like all of this stuff. So I'm like, cool. They didn't want to do the no trade.
Do that?
Wow. So then now I'm like, all right, well then it only makes sense for me to do 4 years, 212, right? Like at least pay me my money. If y'all gonna trade me, then y'all gonna trade me. But at least like now I'm not in a situation where I could have got more had I just gone to free agency. So they didn't want to do that. So then I was like, now I'm open to entertaining what's out there. I love Steve, I love Lawrence, but at that point it didn't even feel right to come back with that type of energy and be comfortable playing back in LA.
Dang. $53 million a year.
It's pretty sweet.
If y'all want to put no trade clause in my dip, I need 53 for over 4.
In my dip.
Dang.
By the way, just to think where they were in 2019 when him and Kawhi got there at the same time, and it was like, oh man, they're taking over. Like it is finally time. Everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. Like
he didn't say any lies in what he said, though. He was efficient this year. He did have a strong year, and he stayed healthy. He wasn't lying. That was not incorrect.
It's pretty detailed negotiation.
It wasn't cat. He put it out there. I need that 150. Dang, for 2 years? What's 150 for 2 years? That's
75 a year.
Dang.
Yeah, I don't think he was going to get that. But it just
75.
When you see what the perception of what everyone
so
thought.
Casual with it though, right? Like, hey, I'm gonna need $75 million for over 2 years. That's a year.
I think there's only banks who are used to hearing that. It's banks in like the NBA, maybe Major League Baseball a little bit.
Hey man, I was watching a show on History Channel called Men That Made America. I don't know if people watch the History Channel, but I was watching it. They was talking about Rockefeller, and they were talking about J.P. Morgan and how electricity made its way, and then it was Carnegie and Frick that came up with, mass producing steel. That's how, Carnegie's from Pittsburgh or whatever. The numbers that they were throwing out there, like, yeah, he wanted to complete this bridge that connected the Mississippi, like connected 2 different places, a bridge to go over the Mississippi River. He came up short. He was in need of $20 million more to complete the project. Like, what?
And
this man wants $75 million for a year playing basketball. This man sitting there, Carnegie was going crazy. Like,
he's trying to connect the East to the West.
Come on, man.
That's all he's trying to do.
All I'm trying to do is create a different lane. Everybody using railroads
to make the Oregon
and
Trail
boats.
not as difficult.
And Paul George is bragging about only missing 8 games last year
for $75 million a year. Dang. Okay, over 3 years. Who cares? Who cares? 150 over 3. Like, who cares?
Yeah, it's $50 million a year. It's still. And the fact that he went into the detail that he went into is him trying to let everybody know
he didn't want to leave.
Yes,
yeah, he didn't want to go.
So the fact that he broke down, because I can't imagine why anybody would want to talk about their negotiations after the fact unless you feel like you got to get your side of the story out because people feel like you kind of alienated the team that you're with.
It's just so easy to do anymore. I mean, there's no reason to false report anything or create a different narrative. I mean, if the team sees it and feels a different way about it than what the player feels, then you put it out there and that, it is what it is. But there's so many outlets now for players to, opportunity for them to put out their own. Like, it's not even what they say. It's not even about breaking news anymore. It's almost, it's like you just talk about the news because these guys are able to break the news on their own. Like that's breaking news that he's putting out there, right? That, like, for him and how that applies. Like, ESPN didn't break that or Fox didn't break that. Like, he brought that news to the table. So when you have that type of access where you can distribute your information the way that you distribute your information, it now becomes interesting to see how these organizations, how they respond to it. Most times, more often than not, is generally a vague, very, very tongue-in-cheek type of response to it because there's no real reason to go into the depth and the details of it. He's not a part of your organization anymore. It's
kind of like the Saquon Barkley pushback or criticism he got from the Giants fans.
That was outlandish, though. That was to me. I mean, you're a QB, former QB. If they said we're not paying Brady Quinn $40 million to be a quarterback and then turning around and giving a running back $12 million, we're not doing that. I mean, wouldn't that hit you the wrong way? That would hit me the wrong way.
I think how the show portrayed the conversation was really interesting, only because the question immediately came up when you were talking about Saquon and Daniel Jones. Once you remove Saquon, like, what's the identity of the offense? That's a problem then. Like, the money you're spending isn't money well spent if you take away one piece and have no identity.
Agreed.
And so then it makes it look like, well, we're probably not investing that $40 million well if we're talking about giving up a guy, 12, 13, 14, and all of a sudden if we lose that, we lose the identity of our offense. And I know Joe Shane ends up saying, well, that's, we're paying this guy $40 million for a reason. It's like, well, yeah, you are, but just FYI, all the best quarterbacks in the league, they're getting somewhere between 50 to 55 to be able to throw the rock around the field.
Dang.
And they're paid that for a reason because they are viewed as that. And so, like, when I hear those comments of Paul George and, like, what he was looking for and the transparency behind the conversation, the reality is that's the NBA. Like, that's your quarterback. You need that superstar. You need a couple superstars.
Truth.
If you really want a shot at competing for a championship. And so, like, that's the going rate. I mean, whether it's quarterback NFL money or NBA money for superstars, that's just what it is. That's the market. And so, not to get off to a tangent on Saquon.
It's good insight, though.
Giants,
that's
but like,
good insight.
When I watch that, I go, oh, this is kind of eye-opening in the sense of, well, you're kind of out loud admitting a mistake. If it only takes one decision that is not even half the amount of money you already invested in something else and are saying, well, we don't have an identity and we're not willing to spend this on that player, that's a problem. It's one of the reasons why, like, it's hard for me to be optimistic about the Giants this season. Because even though they have in free agency tried to replace Saquon in a variety of ways and they bring in Malik Neighbors, who's a playmaker, they don't have Waller anymore either. He's retired. Like, you start really looking at things going, it's a lot of pressure on Daniel Jones to be one of the top guys this year. And by the way, if he's not, this isn't to disparage any player who's going to be coming out in the draft next year at quarterback, but it's not viewed the same way as it was this year. It's one of the reasons why people think that a lot of teams took a quarterback this year in the first round of the draft. It's why you had so many go, because they don't feel optimistic about the outlook for next year. And if that's the case, puts the Giants in a bad spot, does it not?
Yes.
Did you see Malik Neighbors getting ready for training camp?
Yeah.
Just partaking a little bit.
He's going to be in that running for Rookie of the Year.
Yeah.
If Daniel Jones.
Is he going to have any money by then?
Oh, dang.
That guy was throwing a grip of cash at the strip club.
Was he throwing it? It was only ones.
Oh, okay.
Just ones.
You sure?
No.